playing Siege mode has really highlighted the need for perk loadouts. Been having a blast with Siege mode in the PTS, but it has really shined a light on how desperately we need different perk setups integrated into loadouts. Yes, this is definitely something that has been talked about since the game launched, and I agree. Honestly, for me, I've been switching up my weapon loadouts so often that I feel like 3 isn't really enough. Like, I feel like sometimes it's like, oh, this is my plasma, and then this is my plasma, but with a chainsword, and then this is my, yeah, it just, I think, honestly, when it comes to perks, it's definitely a little bit more annoying than switching your weapons, obviously. But you would think, like, the weapon loadouts would be somehow tied into the perk loadouts. Like, if you switch from weapon loadout 1, you would have perk loadout 1. Switch to weapon loadout 2, perk loadout 2, something like that, right? But, I mean, ultimately, it's, to me, it's not something that is, like, really hindering my enjoyment of the game, but it would be much more convenient to be able to go through different perks within Siege mode rounds. I think that's kind of an interesting way to put this. So maybe that's what they're getting at here. But yeah, regardless, Siege mode is going to be like a heightened version of the game where every little detail is going to be very relevant. So if you have a perk that isn't working for whatever reason, for whatever round, or if it's just one that's not effective, that could seriously be the difference between you going from wave 13 or to wave 15. You know what I mean? Just one perk can seriously be the difference. But yeah, let's continue. I'd imagine most people in operations, depending on class, run very different loadouts depending on the enemy they are facing. On Assault, for example, running Jump Pack Dodge with Power Sword feels amazing versus Tyranids, but will get you deleted versus Chaos. Yeah, I mean, sheesh. Yeah, when I was fighting Chaos with the Assault class, I feel like the Thunderhammer, the blocking Thunderhammer, felt pretty good because of ground slams. Definitely being able to just, like, ground slam a Rubric Marine, get him, all, like, just slam down, get him into execution, and just with one shot, that feels really good against Chaos. But yeah, honestly, I've been having a really good time playing different types of Assault dodge builds. The dodging for Assault does feel really, really good once you start to get used to it. Against whom I'd run a Thunderhammer ground pound build. Hey, yeah, that's exactly what I was. Funny how that works out. However, Siege mode does not give me the option to change my build to do so. Sure, I can change my weapons at the loadout pod between rounds, but not having the perks to support said weapon change makes that useless. Oh gosh, this. I hope this isn't like an Assault specific problem because of how, like, Assault does have a lot of options when it comes to, encountering enemies and, definitely engaging into combat. Dodge builds, ground slams, the ranged attacks are pretty good, and you also have the option to go from the Inferno pistol to Plasma to Heavy Bolt pistol to the, Neo-Volkite pistol. So there's definitely a lot of options. So I wouldn't be surprised if that class kind of can have like an awkward layering of your perks and your build when it comes to going from Chaos to Tyranids. Maybe if you're on console and you're not too sure how your build's going to work between switching from Tyranids or to Chaos, it's always a good recommendation to get some practice in Operation number 3, because, yeah, that operation can seriously throw some curveballs at you. But yes, okay, let's continue. So I just end up using the pod as an ammo refill, and I'd be willing to bet that's how most players use it too. Sheesh. Yeah, I mean, of course, but I don't think that's something that, again, I don't think that's something that hinders the pod. I don't think it, like, kind of turns it into, it's not an inconvenience to refill your ammo. I get that, but it's not something that takes away from the pod. I think that's obviously something that should be in the pod. While maybe not as dramatic of a difference as my Assault example, all of the classes struggle in that there will be weapons that are unusable. Weapons are unusable based on your perk setup. I mean, I guess if you switch from like Plasma to like Bolt, with the tactical, you have the Plasma perk for tactical, which creates a frustrating dilemma when playing Siege. Specialize in one specific build to thrive against one enemy type and struggle immensely versus the other, or create a general list build that can accommodate multiple weapons but do nothing exceptionally well. Some might argue this dilemma is purposeful, but I don't believe it's good for the long-term enjoyment of the game. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, the devs have talked about loadouts before, right? It's just something that they didn't have it in the game for whatever reason. I'm not too sure if they ever said they would go back to it, but perhaps Siege mode could get the devs to reconsider loadouts. I definitely think that's a fair point to make. Ultimately, yes, switching from Tyranids to Chaos, certain perks might be more relevant than others when you switch. Or maybe in Siege mode specifically, there should be an option to like change a perk or two. I think that's a fine suggestion to make. But regardless, this definitely brings the conversation back up about loadouts, and maybe the devs should reconsider them. I honestly don't understand why this isn't implemented, especially when some perks specifically boost some weapons. Las Cannon for Sniper. Oh yeah, I saw somebody call the LF the Las Cannon for, Space Marine 1, and I found that funny. I'm not too sure why they changed the name, because the Las Fuzzle, the Las Fuzzle, yeah, I'm not too sure how to pronounce that. Las Cannon. You know what, the LF does sound kind of cool. Las Fuzzle, Las Cannon, I don't know. Okay, regardless. Plasma Rifle for tactical. Siege mode release would be the perfect window for that, I agree. Yeah, I think it's definitely a good point, 100%. This post was made like a couple hours ago, and it already had some really good discussion on it. So, yeah, I imagine that means a lot of people are also suggesting some sort of perk customization option within Siege mode. I think that's fine. But, yeah, I think definitely the devs should 100% see Siege mode as an opportunity to kind of tweak a little bit of quality of life decisions that they may or may have not have wanted in the past. I'm still kind of like confused. Like the devs said it wasn't a priority, right? The devs said they didn't want to add in loadouts for whatever reason, but that was a fair amount of patches ago, right? I'm surprised they didn't basically think about that during the Siege mode building that mode, and making sure that they did have the drop pods. I guess, I don't know, maybe certain perks are just better for Siege mode because it can be applied to Tyranids and Chaos. Maybe. I completely agree with you. As a main Assault, I experienced the same thing, but Assault needs a defensive perk. Not a prestige perk, but a defensive, like boost the number of armor from 3 to 4, or Assault class gets 25% damage reduction on armor. I don't know how many times I got one-shotted by the Burst Fire Tyranids comboed with snipers. It's really frustrating. Okay, it's kind of funny how this conversation kind of took a turn because the original poster mentioned that they play Assault and how important it is. They have a point about this. How important it is that your build kind of reflects who you are playing when you are playing that class. It does make sense. Like if you're playing the Tyranids or Chaos, I feel like the Assault class 100% has the most to gain and the most to lose if their perk setup isn't correctly set up for that. But I think this is kind of a funny conversation because I do think one armor can go a far way with Assault, considering that if you ever use the armor reinforcement perk where your non-lethal gun strikes get armor back, that is very good. That is very good and likely the key to the Assault surviving. I had a operation recently where I had a bulwark with focus restoration. We had a heavy where I took less range damage. So I had, playing Assault, I had 2 great team perks for survivability. And not to mention, I was also using a fencing weapon, so even perfect dodging and, parries, I was getting a lot of armor back. And honestly, if you just kind of work around that, the Assault class, in a way, does have armor back on dodges because you get a higher perfect dodge window for the Assault class, and then you also can get, non-lethal gun strikes give you armor back. So essentially, perfect dodge, gun strike, non-lethal, get your armor back. Boom, perfect dodges equal armor. Same obviously goes for parries. And I think it's kind of an interesting discussion when it comes to Assault because ultimately you do have less options to protect yourself with that class. So I can kind of understand where you might want to switch a perk or two when it comes to fighting Chaos or Tyranids, because against Chaos you want stronger ground slams. But if you don't see yourself doing as many gun strikes, then you might not need the armor reinforcement perk. But I don't know. I think this is kind of interesting, but I will admit that the Assault's survivability is within perfect dodging and getting non-lethal gun strikes so you can get your armor back. But yeah, ultimately, it depends on how you want to play. And regardless, It's quality of life. It's there just because there is a reason for it, at least a handful of reasons for it. Or maybe it's just something to make things flow a little bit better if you want to switch out Invigorating Icon for Glory Shield for whatever reason to, help your cooldown. I think that would be a cool option for Siege mode. Specifically Siege mode, I think that would be a cool option for. In Operations, I mean, switching out your perks can be annoying. What I find annoying is switching out everything. Like, you only have 3 weapon slots, technically, and you know what I mean? Like, you only have 3 weapon loadouts. And now that more classes are getting more weapons, it's kind of awkward to go within the 3 and think about, oh, well, do I need this third or second one? And I don't know. Regardless, I understand the sentiment. I think quality of life is always a good option. Kind of funny how this conversation started to turn into an assault class conversation, but it does make sense that class does rely on its perk setup quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, we will see what the devs say. It would be a cool thing for the devs to go back on perk loadouts and what they talked about earlier with it. Well, I think it was a fair amount. It was a fair amount ago where the devs mentioned perk loadouts not being a priority. It was like, I don't know, patch 5 or 6, maybe, something like that. But yeah, regardless, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. Do you have any other suggestions when it comes to perk loadout implementations that could be something useful for Siege mode or for Operations? Regardless, I do think, at bare minimum, we might need more weapon. We might need more weapon loadout slots. But yeah, regardless, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this, and thanks for watching.